Right. Well, this was last night's oil pastel, which was the fourth in the series of three. Because I got this thing about doing things in three, and it was a battle to go past the three and do a fourth. And I got into this habit, just to let you know why I did it. When I was painting these sort of things, these little in the early days, before I worked with charcoal, you could buy them I bought them in packs of three. So I always painted in threes, and then waited until I could afford to buy another three. So I got into the habit of just doing things in threes. And the amount of paint I actually got out the tubes was enough to do three, and just enough to do three. So that's why I got in the habit of threes, and nothing kind of deep or artistic about it. So I pushed past the barrier of three and did a fourth last night. And I was trying to. It's inevitably ended up being this is the thing about. I always think that. That was the one in the daytime. Let me just. That was the one in the daytime. Yesterday, was it in the afternoon or whatever? I can't remember. The one in the morning as well. But anyway, so that was and it's kind of a painting like because of the background and whatever. And the same with that one because of the background. It just gives it context, I think. And when something floats like that, I did it with the charcoals, and I always talk about floating heads, and anyway. So the point that I was making, and I'm going to make with the pastels, and I was that because with the pastels, it's easy to explain. Is this thing about relationships? I've seen this morning someone talking about comparative measurement. It's a lot of division of things and literal measurement, and physical measurement. And for me is it's being able to see with accuracy is probably, and it kind of borders on the measurement thing, but it doesn't say, right, well, that's the square of that, and then that's half of that, and then that's quarter of that, and that line. It doesn't do any of that. But visual accuracy is to see the relationship of things, whether it be the size, whether it be the location, the size, the tone, or the color. It's the relationship of those things. So if you learn to draw relationally, i.e., get things in the right place, relationally, then that skill can be used to see tones in relation to each other, to be able to see colors in relation to each other. And why it works is because, and this is a perfect example. These are where's this one? This one's a bit more, well, there's two here. There's this one, which was one of the early ones, where I had, this is before we got the box of 50 colors. I think I had 6 colors, but it doesn't matter, because you still see the form of the face. You still see what I see. You see the emotion that I see in this face, because I can see the relationships between the tones, not the colors, because I can still create the effect, and I affect the colors with tone, and there is amalgamations of colors in order to do that. But it's seeing the relationships that makes it work. It's not about me making accurate representations. Add to that mixture my emotional response, and it makes it uniquely mine. That's it, because it's my emotional response. It's not yours. It's not someone else's. I'm not trying to capture this face in order to inform you, right? That's the thing. This idea that that's the ultimate goal, to inform the viewer, is not what it's about. That's illustration. I want to tell people, oh, they've got this color eye and they've got this. No, I want to show you what I see. That's it. I want to show you what I feel about the subject that I see. That's what I want to do. If that information isn't an accurate copy of the world or the object or the subject, that's irrelevant. It's not about that. I want you to see what I see. I want you to feel what I feel. That's what an artist does. So you think about it, all the, you know, the great art is that when people respond to the world around them, artists respond to the world around them, they're telling you what they see and what they feel. That's the thing. And if they do it properly and not turn it into some kind of, you know, detail fest, then you will capture that emotion. You will be impacted by it. This is why conceptual art works in the way it does. It's not meant to be, you look at it and you're impressed by its detail or whatever. They're meant to implant seeds in which you then interpret them, whether you're in front of the work or you're not, whether you're weeks away from it or not. You can recall and feel. This is the secret key, really, in a way, that people don't get about being an artist. They think it's about copying stuff, but it's not. You know, even this morning, someone was talking about, well, some of you actually trace. Fine, but just remember why you're doing it. Is tracing the right way to do it? I think it is if you want to copy things, but I'm not sure it is if you want to respond to something and then tell the world what you see. I'm not sure. So consequently, and you'll see it in this one as much as this one, and all of them really. You see a lack of constructed definition. You see a vagary about or sort of uncertainty about certain things. As I'm trying to let my response manifest, it doesn't always result in some constructed edge or a definitive line. My response is defining things as I'm going through if you want to take it into the simple production stuff, which is the, you know, oh, you draw a line here and draw a line there and this, that, and the other. That is only part and parcel of what this is about. It's inevitable you're going to need some kind of production if you want to do representational stuff. If you want to do, even if you don't, I still think you need some kind of structure, you know, and not necessarily mechanical structure. You know, sort of a division of this or a triangle here and a square there and all that. But you want to need some kind of structure, which my structure is the dots. That's my thing. That's where I start. But it's a visual thing now instead of a physical thing. So I don't use the dots anymore. I just see where the dots are, and I've created that. You know, I've developed the habit to do that. But the relationship thing, obviously it comes from the dots, and I'm not going to tell you what the dots are or how it works because it'd be a separate video. But I think that how you interpret the relationship thing is up to you. I'm going to draw this guy. I think I did it as a charcoal. It's one of those typical charcoal image because of the amount of shadow on it. And I always like with charcoal. And I do it with oil pastels as well. Definitive shadows. Where light creates form. That's what I want to draw. But the relationship thing. And I don't think this came from anywhere. I just got to this place because of being only concerned with my own joy. I didn't really see. I avoided, and I think I always have avoided constraints of the. Sorry, excuse me, snivelling because I'm still full of cold. It's not easing up much. If I start coughing, I apologise. So let me just do this seriously. Hold on a minute. Having not spoken on these for a while, I do on the lessons, but not on the lives, and this may well become a members only thing. If I start rambling too much, I might get accused of pontificating, so I don't really want to do that and upset anybody. But my arrival at this, and I really, it wasn't, oh, it's all about relationships and I'm going to do it like, to start with. It was just response, really. I think that's the real key to all of this, is my response to things. And that response was one of just, as I said, just the joy thing. I just wanted to draw. I didn't really want to exhibit or make a living selling paintings or anything. I think that's probably because I did that originally. You know, that was all those years ago. The reason why I stopped was because my attempt. You know, I attempted to do that, and I think and I may have said this before, but one of the deciding factors was when I was walking around Huddersfield with a portfolio and an easel trying to sell door-to-door paintings, you know, and getting doors slammed in my face and all that sort of thing. Not a nice place to be, and left a scar, obviously. And so coming back to it, I was still scarred after 30 years, which is weird, isn't it? And still, and because of it, I suppose I still haven't figured it out by this point, but I just know, I knew that it wasn't something I wanted to do. So I just drew for my own pleasure. You know, I didn't want to be exhibiting in some local art fair in the library, you know, that kind of thing. I didn't want to do that. So and I kind of knew that it was really important that I didn't do that, and that I allowed this thing that's in me to be revisited and brought back to life in a kind of Frankenstein way. But that's a strange analogy when you think about how this thing has evolved. You know, the relationships, the dots, the relationships, the tonal balance. All these things are sort of amalgamations of things that I've seen or figured out, and so it is kind of a Frankenstein approach. But the relationships thing wasn't, I suppose, until and I was doing it, and it's a lot of those things that one of those things that when I read, I used to say, I hate drawing hair, but you know, when I don't try and draw it, it seems to work. And then I got a copy of Robert Enri's Art Spirit, and he said exactly the same thing. And all these I don't know if they're truisms, but they're like previously discovered things that other artists have fathomed out. And so all these things were all sort of becoming more and more visible to me. I all of a sudden saw things in a particular way, and then listening to Robert, Paul Ingbertson, talking about relationship. I mean, the guy is a legend. Honestly, you gotta listen to him. You know, and watching's not really. You could just listen to him. You don't need to. I just use examples and things, but I suppose for that reason you probably watch him. But essentially, listen to what he says. But then I found him, and he was saying that, again, a lot of things that I said and so I do say today, and also talked about relationships. And I thought, oh, that's me, and I'm, you know, it's starting from it wasn't the dots. I've said this many times. It wasn't the dots initially, but I was doing the relationship thing, and it all became even more clear because of what Paul said. And I sent him a message. I mean, he wouldn't talk to somebody like me, some weirdo from Yorkshire, but he did reply. Bless him. He did say, I just said basically, thank you for being someone that confirmed what I had been thinking, and it is kind of a touchstone for me to reaffirm what I think. So anyway, he came back to me, and it was a nice email, and it was great. So which was lovely. I mean, as I'm saying about the bloke, he seems like a top bloke, but the relationships thing then became even more apparent to me, and everything that I see or saw and do see now with the this it's almost like, because people need the usual thing is the definition of something, the definition of a portrait kind of thing, and that is what we're told a portrait should be, and all that sort of thing, and this is good and that's not, and we got game shows that do exactly that, and it's all there. We're all being told that this is how it should be. So the relationship thing became kind of everything that I do, and as I say, there is a natural need or requirement from people to want it to be a definite way of doing it to ensure a proper outcome, which is why people would trace, because that's if they want to ensure a definite outcome, a predefined, like I say, portraits are defined by someone else kind of approach to it, which is usually, even if it's not defined by somebody else, it's defined by the fact that you think that portraits are a copy of somebody's face, and the better the copy, then the better the portrait, sort of thing. So for me to come along and say, well, it's not really that. It's everything relates to everything, and but ultimately it's about how you feel about the subject. That's not going to help anybody, is it? It's just not going to help. But nevertheless, that's just that's how it is for me. That's what I do, and initially I wanted to share it because it works for me. So why wouldn't it work with someone else, kind of thing? That's not the case, is it? Not really. It's just because there's too many other factors. I think most of all, the biggest factor, the biggest problem, is this preconception of what portraits should be, and an expectation. There's that word, and consequently, you're gonna fall foul of that all the time. It's like this thing about the artist block and all the fear stuff. All that is fueled by expectations, and so you gotta cut down the risk, haven't you? So you're gonna go comparative measurement. It's going to be, because that's tracing. I think tracing is probably the safest bet for anything. As I said before many times, as an illustrator, that's exactly what I did. We would always trace things. We had an incredible library of reference materials, magazines and publications, and anything that had images in that were going to be useful to us when we were illustrating. And we we had in one of the rooms in the old, we worked in an old lace mill, which was amazing. You know, one of those big open plan loft type things, but it wasn't a loft. It was, I think we were third floor or something like that. And so one of the rooms in this, the annexed off kind of, it was just on a long plan, was this. Was where we kept all. It was our kind of a library thing. It was just shelves and books and magazines, and you know. But in there, mostly, as I say, there was the as many magazines or as many books as you could imagine. A library, really, and that's and so all of those, and then with the help of a grant enlarger, if you know anything about those things, we could trace anything. And get the job done, get it done to the client's requirement and to a standard that was acceptable, and so on and so forth. Which is how, you know, as an illustrator, that's how it should be. But and then what happens is, and this is the other thing about, I suppose, about the constructive method, is that you can introduce flair and style and looseness to it. When you do when you paint or draw it, and that's kind of how it works now. And it's not a, you know, it's not the wrong way to do it. That's how everybody does it. But the problem is, for me, is that style doesn't start at the point you begin to colour in. Style starts now. Everything about your work starts at the beginning of it, not at the end of it. So, you know, I've got an outline of a dog or a cat or whatever it is, but I'm going to do it in this style. You know what I mean? How many times have you heard that? That's a weird thing, isn't it? Does that make sense? No. But as I said, this is how it is, and so the idea that fueling all of this is some kind of emotive component. Your emotions are going to fuel this. That's just nonsense, isn't it? So that was kind of the response generally that I was getting to. Well, when I first started doing this online, this one guy really came at me for being not a proper artist, and not, you know, I'll do everything in my power to get you off YouTube, and it was quite vicious and bullying, you know, and I did a video about him bullying, and he actually joined in the video and commented on the video, and I wanted him to, you know, and just to prove a point, you know, to prove what happens. And the guy was that dim that he took the bait, and but he was that dim that he couldn't stop himself from taking part in it. But like I say, initially people, and still, I mean, now there's lots of people now that don't get this when I'm talking about the emotional response thing. It's still quite misunderstood, shall we say? But then again, like I say, I said this to start with, this is my response. This is my way of doing it. This is not the right way or the wrong way. This is just my way, and I think that is important. It should be like that. But going back to the construction and the relationship approach, as opposed to the comparative measurement thing, that one thing I think is the one thing that if you do get it, and you do see how everything relates to it, then it will. It will. As I said when I was talking about these videos that still change your life, then understanding that the relationships will change the way you work, or understanding relationships, or taking a relational approach it will affect your way of working. It will have an impact. I'm not saying it'll improve, because you may be locked into the idea that it has to be an accurate copy, and if so, the relationship thing will only be useful at certain times during the production of your work. But for it to be, if it's a component in the early stages of your work, then it changes everything. It changes the kind of evolution of everything, the evolution of the way you draw and whatever. And I think that one of the things, this is why I wanted to do it with this stuff, because of the zero control. I mean, it might just be me, but the lack of control with these things, and the fact that I don't have any decent colors, so to speak of, colors that you would think were appropriate. And so I'm working kind of with, and I said it last night in the live last night with the other one, working with these things is all about compromise and acceptance. It's all about that. It's all about, well, I can't do it that way, but and I can't get that exact sort of precision there. I don't have that color. And it's all about, yeah, but I can still make it work. It's still working. I'm still responding to something. But yeah, the relationship thing is the one thing that I think, forget about my attitude to this and my mental state and all that kind of stuff, and expectations and everything else. Forget about all that. It just if the relationship side of things can be a component, shall we say, in your endeavor, I think that it will have a significant impact. Not change your life forever, as I said with that one this morning. I was banging on about that, and you'll never do things the same again and all that. Maybe you won't do things the same again, but I'm not professing that will be the case. It will probably be, unless you go full tilt, obviously. I mean, if you go full tilt on the relational way of drawing, or the relational way of painting, the thing is that's the thing. It's the relational approach to making art is everything. It's not just drawing, it's not just painting, it's just everything. Even if you were a landscape painter or a still life painter, it's all about relations, and it will impact on everything. It even impacts on what you choose to paint, which is like weird, or draw. Because I have this thing about people just paint and draw anything, and the only reason they do it most often is to show they can do it. And I don't need to do that. I don't need to draw a vase full of flowers just to show you that I can draw a vase full of flowers. The people that actually do that and do it well aren't drawing vases of flowers. They're responding to the world around them, and you can see that in their work. There's a guy that I'm connected with. I think he's Chinese. I'm not sure. He does I think he does these sort of live sessions as well. So, but when he paints flowers in a vase on a windowsill and the light, and sometimes it's indistinguishable as to what they are, but they're just so, and just beauty personified. It's just, that's it. You know, he's responding to the world, and it's his, you know, response that is embedded within the painting, within the work. It's not always paint, and and but as I said, I'm not. This is the thing about my approach. And I suppose this is another thing that most people wouldn't necessarily find useful, is this thing that I only paint what I want to paint. I only draw faces I want to draw. And I saw somebody who was a really famous portrait artist doing a demo, and it's a great bloke. I mean, proper artist in a barn, and you know, everything. You know, it was just everything about him that was artist. I think he's at the Royal College or something, a lecturer of some kind. But he just looked at this guy and who wanted his portrait done. And he just looked at him and he said, "Let me look at your face, see if there's anything worth drawing, and or painting rather." And I thought, yeah, that's me. That's me. I would, you know, I just couldn't sit and draw anybody. It'd have to be contrived in some way so that it would inspire me, if you like. Because the only thing that inspires me is the subjects, and I'm not inspired by other artists or great work or anything like that. I admire other artists and great work and things, but I've no desire to do it like anybody else. So that's the response relationship, you know, emotional side of things, which is a difficult thing to teach. And if people want predetermined outcomes because of whatever they think portrait should be, it's hard. It's hard for me to get that across, and I wrestle with this idea of the live workshop at my local art group, and how do I break the cycle of them, first of all, having a definition of what a portrait is, and secondly, being dependent on replication as their assessment tool, you know, success tool. So if it looks, every detail's there and it looks like them, I think the likeness thing is a understandable thing. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be a justifiable excuse. Well, it's no excuse, justifiable reasoning to say that the likeness is everything, and if I do that, then I've succeeded. That's basically how most people would go about it. But I because of the response thing is that, you know, you as I said, you've seen how this is evolving. You see how a lot of it is indecisive and not precise, and more figuring out than it is mechanical assessment. Plus the in the moment assessment, you know, of that, and that's the thing. It's like the likeness is occurring early on, which is the consequence of something else. It's a consequence of the emotional response. It's not really a a contrivance as such, you know, and that I needed to feel like him, and therefore, if it feels like him, it's this, that, and the other. One of the things I would say about the tools thing is that using equipment, tools, materials, whatever, that will force you in a particular direction, i.e. that these things will stop you from doing any kind of definite mark making. They take away the desire, you know, the desire for detail. They take away the desire for detail, and they force you to think in a certain way, and that's a in a way is it pushes towards a relationship thing. So so I can't make the right colors. I can't get anywhere near the right detail if I wanted to put detail into it. So, but I want to do this, and I know this is all I've got in my hand. And so consequently, you kind of forced into working in a relational way. It's not like it's a choice. It's I haven't got no choice. I haven't got another blow. Is basically what we're saying. I haven't got another blow, so I'm forced into making, observing the relationship of things. I haven't got a point on the end of this, so I'm forced into the relationship of the outer shapes of things. So in a way, and this goes back to when I was in the studios and drawing for visualizing things, to visualize something so the client could see what it is we were trying to propose for this new brochure or his whatever advert or whatever. And clients notoriously, most people are incapable of visualization. You couldn't explain something. It's not like AI. So you couldn't give them a prompt, and the client would say, "Oh yeah, I get what you're saying now." Somebody had to visualize the scenario, the whiskey on the table or the person stood at a bar or whatever, and that's what I had to do. So the guys in the studio weren't going to wait around while I spent all afternoon tinkering around with something that made it look pretty. That's not how it works. So they said, you're going to learn to draw quickly and with accuracy. So they gave me, and it was, first of all, it was one of those Chinograph pencils. You sort of reel off the back of it, you pull it off. It's like a big fat pencil, and you pull it off, and it reveals a wax crayon, a wax pencil that you can write on the bottom of a piece of crockery or whatever. And so they gave me one of those and a tiny little sketchbook and said, "You've got to draw so and so, something quite detailed." And instantly you're stuck because I've been used to drawing with a pencil. That's all I've ever drawn with. Pencils are drawing instruments, not these big fat ugly things. And quickly I learned to see only what was important and capture only what was important. And that's a great way to learn. And in the same way that this stuff takes away all that, the luxury of detail and the luxury of color, I learned to draw with what I had, and that, I suppose, is the it might well be the foundation of what I am, and the way I do what I do. It might well be that was, the thing that set me on this path. I didn't carry on doing that. If you looked at me, my watercolors that I did before I stopped, none of those were big and bold, and they were all intricate and because I was still in that mindset of, oh, well, you know, great paintings are this, you know. I'd seen and I admired, because I worked in watercolor, I admired Sargent's watercolors. I didn't really understand why the way they were. I don't think most people do these days. You look at some of these watercolorists today and you think, nah, they've not got it, have they? They've not got it at all. But I was like that. I was that person that looked at it as a production thing, you know, and I didn't get into the daftness of trying to make copies of Sargent's work and calling it a master copy, as I was trying to loosen my style or learn their mark making and all those sort of silly excuses. But I didn't get into all that. But I was still locked into the perception and the idea that this is what watercolors are about, and I should do it like this if I want to be good, or considered to be good, and I was locked into that. So I didn't just paint. I couldn't just paint, you know. And whatever came out. I couldn't do that. It was too the technical thing was too embedded within me. You know, it must be a procedure, a process. It was too deeply ingrained, and I suppose it took 30 years to get rid of that. But as I said, the relationship thing is partly forced, I suppose, in respect to say charcoal, because charcoal was a stranger to me until 2019. So and I made the fatal mistake of looking at other charcoal artists, and you know, as you would do. I mean, that's just, you know, why wouldn't you? It's a natural thing, but it was a mistake. So I had to get rid of that. I had to get rid of that out of my system. That portraits charcoal is this, you know, this is Oliver Sin, you know, it's all that. So I had to get that out of my system, and I did. In some of those early charcoals, I did actually manage to find my own voice, and I think I've got it now. Anyway, it's not something I'm conscious of, and I think that again is a little bit of a key to it all. I'm not conscious of it, which is exactly what it should be. And if people talk to me about making portraits, and I like the thing I'm pontificating over. No, I'm pondering is the word, not pontificating. I've got pontificate because I'm worried about what that guy said about pontificating, and I'm not. I hope that's not the way you feel about it. I'm just trying to share. That's all. And the reason why I'm pondering over the live classes thing is simply because it's a difficult thing, because there's a lot of things you got to break before you start to get back. I mean, if it took 30 years for me to break my habits and my visual habits and some degree technique, I can't do that in a classroom or in a workshop. It's not gonna work, is it? How do you get people to sort of reset there? And I call in my workshop on the 4 weeks thing, I call the first week a reset, because that's what it has to be. If you're going to do it, because you may well, and worse still if you've already, because I always think that working with people that have never done it before is the best place to start for me, because it's easier because they're not locked into, and they don't have to unlearn anything as well. That's another thing as well. You don't have to unlearn all the stuff that has become a habit. That's the thing. I don't think that I could probably say that people that have already been doing it for a while will ever change. Um, um, and the problem is this is a major problem. I think that people have formed these habits based on doing it wrong in the first place. You know that thing about just keep doing something wrong doesn't make it right. And so people have formed these habits of doing things based on not for the no fault of their own, because there's not enough people out there willing to examine things. You know, there's too many people out there saying, "Oh, this is the way it's been done for 400 years," and then we just keep doing this crap, and then and people just keep doing the same old, don't they? That's it. This is how it's always been. This is how it's always done. This is comparative measurement. So and you guarantee the outcome. It just takes some getting used to, but it's going to be worth it. Is it? Is it really? It seems a bit dogmatic to me, that kind of stuff. But anyway, that might be pontification. But I think that it's a bit like the mindset thing. This is a mindset, really, to think about it in terms of a relationship than a technical exercise, a skill exercise. But I think it's really about, that thing, if you want to quit smoking, you've got to really want to quit smoking or drinking or whatever it is, whatever your vice is, you're going to want to do it. And if there's a problem, you've got to know there's a problem, and you've got to acknowledge that problem and do something about it. And I think that's the same with this. If you really want to do it, then that's fine. I think you can do it. But if it's just a case of, I want to improve the way I draw eyes, well, the comparative measurement is probably the best route. I want to make better copies of faces. Well, comparative measurement's your best route. So it's that, and I can't dictate someone's desire to do that. I can't dictate their willingness. I can't dictate that, or control that, rather. So if they want to do it, fine. And I always think that if people really want to do something, they find a way to do it anyway, don't they? They don't need someone to tell them how to do it. That's it's one of those facts of life. There are people that just have a way around to. I mean, you might use YouTube just to give you an idea of. I mean, I watched YouTube originally and thought, well, that's a lot of rubbish. And so that right there is you can tell what kind of person I am. And I've always been the same. I figure it out myself. I figure out how to do this stuff. If it's charcoal is a perfect example. I didn't have any charcoal, so I made some. How many people would think that, right? And I think that's perfectly natural for me. I think that everybody's like that, but it turns out they're not. But and that is going back to the using materials that are suitable thing. They're not suitable, but hey, I'm going to make them work anyway. That's the kind of mentality. It's unstoppable